Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a rogue monk multi-class. Now, I'm actually going to do another video dealing with the same classes but with a different outlook. This one's going to be more of a crouching tiger, hidden dragon style. We're going to be focusing more on the monk with a bit of rogue thrown in. The other one is going to be more of like a ninja style. We're going to be focusing more on the rogue with some monk added in. So that's going to be a separate video. I was originally going to do it all as one video, but I just thought it was going to be too long. And I think the two builds are different enough that each one should probably have its own video. And then if you're interested in one but not the other, you can just watch the video you like better. So in a lot of our other multi-class videos, we've talked about combining different spellcasters, like we've done like warlocks and sorcerers. We've done half-casters like warlocks and paladins, or sorcerers and paladins. Noticing a common theme there. We also looked at the barbarian and the druid. This one's going to be just two non-casters. Now, in my video of tips and tricks and do's and don'ts for multi-classing, I talked about three main reasons to multi-class. One was to become better at your core proficiency. In other words, you take a class who's really good at one thing, combine it with a class who's also really good at that same thing, but does it in a different way, and you become exceptional at that thing. Easy example of that would be like a champion fighter with their expanded crit range, just wants to get a lot of crits. You take 2 levels of barbarian, you attack with advantage all the time, and now you just get more crits. And pretty simple, nice, easy way to do it. Or a good example again would be like, say, the warlock paladin I mentioned. You've got a few spell slots as a paladin, and you want to use them to smite a lot. So you take warlock. Now you have a bunch of spell slots that are recharging on a short rest, and you're able to smite with those. But you still have some paladin spell slots that aren't automatically scaling the way the warlock ones do, giving you the option to cast things like, say, shield as a first level spell instead of a third or fourth or fifth level spell. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on in this video. We want to take a look at the movement speed of the monk combined with the mobility of the rogue to use things like cutting action as a free disengage or a dash. Monks do get something similar, but they have to spend key points on it, and I'd rather spend my key points on, flurry of blows and things like that. So that's the main thing we're looking to get out of this. Reason number 2 to multi-class was to add things your class is weak in or doesn't have, such as like, say, someone who takes 1 level of cleric for heavy armor, like a life cleric or a war cleric or tempest or forge or whatever, and you get a domain ability, you get a couple spells, some first level spell slots, you can get a lot of 1 level cleric. But if you're just like, hey, I could take a feat, or I could just take 1 level cleric, get heavy armor if I take the right one, and get this other stuff. The third reason is to add versatility, and we're going to be doing a bit of that here as well. We're going to have things like expertise that a monk wouldn't normally have access to, and we'll also have some sneak attack damage. Although I do think it's important to point out that the monk and the rogue both fill a similar function. They're both that light skirmisher. You're not a fighter or a barbarian who wants to be taking a lot of damage and also dishing out damage. You just want to be dishing the damage. You don't really want to be taking a lot. You've only got a D8. You don't have lots of armor, and in fact, in this case, you're probably going to be going with unarmored defense from the monk. So you're probably not going to be wearing any armor at all, and you want to be focusing more on the mobility and your ability to just deal lots of damage. But like I said, you're not looking to get hit. So you're not really adding anything else there. You're just kind of doubling down on what you're already good at, which is fine. Like I said, we're going to be better at our core competency. For the 2 subclasses, I'm going to go with the Kensai, the way of the Kensai Monk, and the Swashbuckler Rogue. The Rogue choice doesn't matter quite as much. I think that like Assassin would work fairly well for this as well. Really any of them would work, but Swashbuckler gets fancy footwork, which is something I'm really looking to take advantage of. Since mobility is going to be the main theme of this build, we might as well go with the rogue one that's going to give us the best options as far as that goes. But, like I said, other ones will work too. Another problem that we need to be aware of, it's not really a problem, that's not the right word, but something we need to consider is that although monks and rogues fulfill the same role in combat, that, kind of light skirmisher or lightly armored high damage dealer, the glass cannon of, martial classes essentially, they both fulfill it in very different ways. The rogue is looking to get all of their damage in one big assault from their sneak attack. The monk doesn't really do a lot of damage on any individual hit, but they make up for it with things like flurry of blows. In other words, it's the volume of attacks. They're making it up in bulk compared to the rogue who's doing it all in one hit. And so that's two different philosophies on how to deal your damage. So I think that taking in a perfect world, like a 10 monk, 10 rogue, or 9/11 type breakdowns aren't really so good, because they're both trying to do the same thing but in vastly different ways. And I think it's really better to focus more on one than the other. On this one, I'm not saying that you couldn't go heavier on rogue. I think you absolutely could. But like I said, I'm looking more for that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style idea, or Crouching Kensai, Hidden Swashbuckler, whatever you want to call it. And the ninja build is going to be focused more on the rogue. I think that one we're going to be looking for more ways to really maximize that sneak attack. This one, sneak attack, is just bonus added damage. We're not looking to ignore it completely. It's still more damage. But, we might even take some feats that help us out with that. We'll get to that in the feats section. But we really mostly want to be looking at the mobility and the monk stuff. So what else is rogue bringing to the table? I already mentioned that we're going to have expertise. We're going to have cunning action. There you go. That's the main one we're really looking for. Like I said, monks do get something similar, but it's going to cost key points. And, I'd rather spend the key points on something else. Cunning action is amazing, and it's actually better than the monk key ability anyways. But the Swashbuckler specifically is going to give us fancy footwork. And this makes it so if I make a melee attack on someone, they cannot make an attack of opportunity against me. So I can move in, attack somebody, move away, attack somebody else, and that guy's not going to get an opportunity attack. Now, if there's 2 or 3 of them there, the other ones still can. So, bear that in mind. You're still not wanting to get hit a ton, right? But it's going to give us that option. It also gives us rakish audacity. There we go. It adds our charisma modifier to our initiative, as well as our dex modifier, of course. And since we're going to be a dex class, this means your initiative could be really, really high. And this is the other thing that the Swashbuckler is adding to the class. Usually on a rogue, you're only going to be able to do a sneak attack if you're rolling with advantage, or if you have an ally within 5 feet of that target. But Swashbuckler doesn't have that restriction. You can do your sneak attack whether you have advantage on that target or not. And this means that even if we're really fast in combat and we're moving around a lot, we're going to be able to get in sneak attacks on a lot more targets because we don't have as many restrictions on it. And, even though sneak attack isn't going to be our big damage dealer on this character, we're probably only looking at 3 to 5, maybe 6 levels of rogue. We still don't want to throw those dice away. We still want to be able to use them whenever we can. So I really just think that it's a good fit. Now, if you do want to go higher, level 5 as a rogue, you're going to get your uncanny dodge. Level 7, you're going to get evasion. At level 11, you'll get reliable talent, and at 14, you're going to get blind sense, of course. And I like the idea of getting blind sense on this character. It's very thematic. It reminds me of movies like Bloodsport, where you get the powder thrown in his eyes and he still has to fight blind. Or, Arya Stark fighting the waif in the middle of the dark there after she blows up the candle, And blind fighting has always been kind of a theme of martial arts. I do think, though, that by the time you get 14 levels of rogue and, 5 or 6 levels of monk, that's a long time to wait for blind sense. I don't think it's really that good as a capstone that we want to wait till level 20. And it's also worth noting that monks and rogues both get evasion. And in general, I don't want to have redundancies and dead levels like that, They don't stack. You just, if you have evasion, you have evasion. You don't need it twice. So I really think that favoring one class more over the other just makes a lot of sense. Now, if you wanted to take this as an archery build, which you can perfectly do, then you may want to look at having a few more of the rogue levels. That's when I would favor like probably 5 or 6. If you're going with more of a sword build, then 3 or 4 levels of rogue, if you want that extra feat or ability score increase, is probably just fine. One thing that's nice about this build is that you're really only looking at the 3 levels of rogue as a requirement, and then as many monk levels as possible, which means that this build, like, you're not needing a bunch of high level monk abilities. Those are just going to make it even better. But really, you're just needing a few levels, and so really by like the time you're like level 6 or 7, you have all the core components of this build. Let's say level 8, so you get your second attack as a monk and stunning strike, both excellent abilities. So by level 8, you basically have everything you need. Everything else is just bonus added on top. So in a campaign that maybe only goes to 12 or 15, you're not going to be saying like, oh, I kind of want to play this, but I'm worried that I won't get to use my good abilities, and it's going to mature really late, because anytime you multi-class, you're always going to mature a little later because you're, deferring your progression in both classes, essentially. So I don't think that's really a big deal in this one. You don't have like high-level spell slots that you're pushing back even further and going, I'm never going to be able to, I'm going to have to be level 20 before I can use 7th level spells or 6th level spells. You don't have any of those issues. You only really just need extra attack and, 3 levels of rogue. I mean, technically you can even get away with a couple, but you definitely, I would say 3. Get the archetype, get your fancy footwork, get your rakish audacity, and, you're pretty much good at that point. So for Monk, what is Monk bringing to the table? Obviously, you have your key abilities, things like Flurry of Blows, so you can take 2 attacks as a bonus action. You've got Patient Defense, so you can dodge as a bonus action. And we're going to take a look at reasons why you might want to actually consider that as a good option in combat. Step of the Wind, where you can use it's basically like cunning action. You can use key points to dodge or disengage. I actually just think cunning action is better though, and one of the reasons I want rogue is so I can use that instead of having to spend my key points on this. Now I can use my key points on things that are, going to hopefully deal lots of damage. And we're going to take a look at some options specifically with the Kensai in a second here. Obviously, you get the base monk abilities. You get, step of the, slow fall, extra attack, stunning strike, key and power strikes, evasion, stone's mind, all those. We won't bother going through all the baseline monk abilities. We'll take a look more at the Kensai specific ones. So at level 3, you get to choose your path of the Kensai. You're going to get Kensai weapons. You get to choose 2 different types of weapons to be your Kensai weapons. One is a melee weapon, and one is a ranged weapon. Now, if you want to be focusing on range more, longbow is a perfectly fine option. I would definitely consider that. And then I'd probably be looking to take it with things like the sharpshooter feat. And if you go this route, you're definitely going to want to have extra attack, because there's nothing worse than missing on all your sharpshooter attacks due to your -5 penalty and then not getting a sneak attack. In fact, I would probably just like do a safe shot first, or maybe just try to hit, and if you miss, then don't use it and try to get that sneak attack in. It's not as crucial with this one though, because if you only have 3 to 5 levels of rogue, you're only looking at 2 or 3 dice 6. I mean, not saying that it's not important, but it's not like you're rolling 10 dice 6, right? So the sneak attack is just added bonus here. It's not the core function. I would definitely, for the melee weapon, look for something with the finesse property though. I'm probably looking at like a short sword or a rapier. Maybe talk to your DM about reskinning it as a martial art weapon if you really want, like a ninja toe or call it a wakizashi or whatever else you want to do. But I would definitely use something with finesse property so that we can still use it with our sneak attack. We're going to get agile parry. If you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn and you're holding a Kensei weapon, you can use it to defend yourself, giving yourself a +2 bonus to your armor class until your next turn. Pretty decent, but I'm probably going to be attacking with my weapon more, but it is a nice option. if I want to use like a stunning strike or something this round instead, and I just want to punch somebody, and I'm like, yeah, I've got a lot of stuff on me though, I might need the defense, then you could do that. Although you might just be better off using your ability to dodge, you know, as a bonus action. Might be a better choice, but you know, it's there anyway. Kensai shot. If you use your bonus action on your turn, you can make a ranged attack with a Kensai weapon more deadly. When you do so, any target you hit with a ranged attack using Kensai weapon takes an extra 1d4 damage of the weapon's type. You retain this benefit until the end of the current turn. So, not too bad. It's, you know, it's a bonus action attack, which is pretty decent, and it does an extra d4 damage. So, you know, nothing wrong with that. And that's really why I think that a ranged bow using Kensai is a very strong option here. I mean, the nice thing is you don't even have to go all in on a ranged or melee build. Like, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can do both quite effectively here because you're not having to choose which ability you want. You have both abilities already. You get to choose a ranged weapon, you get to choose a melee weapon. So I really like that. At level 6, you're going to get to choose another Kensai weapon. You're going to get a 4th one at 11 and a 5th one at 17. And as far as other abilities, well, you also get Way of the Brush. Yeah, you gain proficiency with your choice of calligrapher's supplies or painter's supplies. Could be okay for some role-playing stuff, I guess. Maybe you want to try to forge somebody's signature, although that's actually a different skill. But, you know, not really doing much for what we're trying to focus on, which is more of a combat-focused build. But, like I said, there is some role-play potential. I shouldn't knock it. You know, it's a free ability, essentially, because you're getting a bunch of other stuff with it anyways. So, why not? At level 6, you get one with the blade. This is going to allow you to use your ki to do things like magic Kensai weapons. Your attacks with your Kensai weapons now count as magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity. Nice ability. I mean, this is usually about the range where you start finding magical weapons anyways. But if you're using something kind of exotic, you may not be able to get one right away, you know? Like if you're just using a dagger, you're probably in luck. But if you're not, you know, it could be a while before you get something magical. So the fact that at level 6 you can start doing it is actually pretty decent. Death Strike. When you hit a target with a Kensei weapon, you can spend 1 ki point to cause the weapon to deal extra damage equal to your martial arts die. You can only use it once on each of your turns. So basically, it's just allowing you to double up the damage of that weapon for 1 round. And combined with, you know, your dexterity bonus, some sneak attack damage, possibly, you know, if you're using it as a range attack with your bow, you could be using it as a Kensai shot for an extra d4 damage there. This damage can really start to add up pretty quickly. So there's a lot of potential there. Now you can only spend 1 point on each of your turns to do this, but this is one of the reasons I kind of like using cunning action to free up some of our ki points so that we can actually start spending our ki points on things like this or flurry of blows. And you can really start to deal a lot of damage. I think it's a very, very, very strong ability. Level 11, you're going to get Sharpen the Blade. The bonus action, you can spend up to 3 ki points to grant 1 Kensai weapon you touch a bonus to attack and damage rolls when you attack with it. The bonus equals the number of ki points you spend. This bonus lasts for 1 minute or until you use this feature again. So you could use it on, like, let's say you're using a short sword, for example, as one of your Kensei weapons. You can spend 3 ki points to just add 3 damage to all of those attacks, and it lasts a full minute. So if you're going to be in a big fight, you might want to throw that down right off the bat, and then just every attack, you're getting those extra 3 points of damage. And then combined with all your other things that we've been talking about, your Kensai, your flurry of blows, your other added strikes, your sneak attack damage, everything else, the damage just starts to really, really mount, and you really start dealing out ridiculous amounts of damage. Like I said, this is a character that for the most part is looking to do their damage in volume, just from the sheer number of attacks. but we're also adding a lot of bonuses and things along the way to make those attacks more dangerous. So those are the main abilities that we're trying to get. I want to take a quick look at feats. Now, obviously, we're a dexterity user. We're going to have really high initiative, probably due to the fact that we have dexterity bonus, and we're even going to have our charisma bonus. And that might not necessarily be huge. Maybe you've only got a +1 or a +2. But, you know, every little bit helps. We're already going to be pretty fast. If you really want to just go all in on the speed, you could always take the alert feat, one that I recommend a lot anyways. I don't know that it's quite as necessary on this class because we're already really quick, but it's never a bad choice. Obviously, the mobile feat is one you might want to consider if the big theme of this class is going to be that kind of fast, mobile, agile fighter who can like dance in and out of combat and weave through all the enemies. Then, you know, adding even more movement to it is pretty good. There's a couple though that I really want to talk about right now. And the first one is Sentinel. Now, usually when you talk about Sentinel, you think of it as more of a tanking type feat, you know? You want to try to like keep the damage focused on you and keep people attacking you. And if they attack any of your allies, you're going to make an opportunity attack against them and lock them down and keep them in place so that they can't just chase after somebody, right? But in this case, it's really just a way to get in some extra damage and to make an extra sneak attack. And now, I know I said that our sneak attack isn't really the big focus on this character, and that's true. But we still have it, we still might as well use it, and we might as well just get in some extra damage with it. The way sneak attack works is you can only make a sneak attack once per turn, but that's on your turn. You're not on your turn anymore, you're now on, you know, Orc number 5's turn. And if he attacks your buddy next to you, use Sentinel, attack him back, add those sneak attack damage, and, you know, who knows, maybe you have other bonuses that you're adding on top of it too. Like maybe you spent 3 key points to add 3 to all your weapon attack damage, you know, or whatever else. So it just gives you another source and another way to get in more damage and to kind of push that sneak attack a little bit further. This is something I'm definitely going to look at more in the ninja build, where we're going to be focusing more on our sneak attack, but it's definitely worth mentioning here too. Another one we might want to consider is either Martial Adept or Mage Slayer. And I have never, ever recommended Martial Adept. It is honestly one of the worst feats there is. And I always want to like it. Like, it's one of those ones where I look at it and I think, man, maybe it's actually pretty good. I could grab a couple maneuvers, and I start thinking about all the possibilities. And then you like reread it again, and you're like, oh no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But in this case, I think we can find a use for it. You get 2 maneuvers from the Battle Master maneuvers. One of those, I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be Riposte. You only have your 1 superiority die. It's only a d6. It doesn't scale. You can only use it once per short or long rest. So, you know, if it's a choice between this and Sentinel, take Sentinel. But if you have an extra ASI and you're like, hey, maybe I'll take this as well, I think there's a real home for it here. Basically, it's just going to mean that if somebody attacks you, you could choose, and they miss, they have to miss, you could choose to use your reaction, which Riposte, to attack back. And this is going to give you another chance to do more sneak attack damage. It's also going to add your superiority die to that damage. The other one I would probably look at taking would be Precision Attack, because especially if I'm using it with, say, Sharpshooter, and I want that -5 + 10 damage, you don't want to be missing on that attack. Especially if you've only got 1 attack and you're adding a bunch of sneak attack damage on top of that, and you know, you want to be hitting. So I think that there's some potential there as well. I think both of those maneuvers are good. The problem is you've only got the 1 superiority die, and that's kind of what really holds this thing back. In fact, that's why I never recommend this for any other builds. But I think for this one and for the ninja build, there is a bit of a home here, because sneak attack can be very powerful, especially if you're a higher level rogue, and the ability to just get it in more often really works. And there is some nice synergy with Sentinel. So if I'm up in front in melee and they attack the barbarian instead of me, I can use Sentinel to attack back with my reaction and, you know, get a bunch of damage. But if they attack me instead of the barbarian and they miss, I could then use martial adept, riposte him back, and get in that damage still, either way. It gives me some nice flexibility. Now, the other one I suggested was Mage Slayer, but I actually find Mage Slayer is a way better feat than martial adept overall. But I also think that it's kind of maybe not quite as good on this character. And the reason is because I have other ways of dealing with mages. I have things like Stunning Strike that I could use to take them out. And like in general, I don't want a bunch of living mages that are conscious and capable of casting spells that are within 5 feet of me. Like, in order for me to be able to use Mage Slayer and make that reaction attack, they have to be within 5 feet of me. And, you know, I don't necessarily want that. I'd rather just, you know, kill them or stun them or whatever else. And I don't necessarily want to be, you know, forcing myself to be locked in one particular place. The whole idea is I'm going to be this mobile combatant who can dance around, you know, around the room or the battlefield or whatever it is. I don't necessarily want to be like, okay, but now I have to make sure I stop right next to the mage so I can use Mage Slayer, you know? Like I said, I'd rather just use Stunning Fist or something like that on the guy. I think that's going to be a much stronger option. But it does fulfill a similar role, so I at least wanted to talk about it and mention it. I think that Lucky, of course, is always a decent choice. If you're ever just stuck with, like, hey, I don't know what feat to take, and I've got generic feat choice here, Lucky's an amazing feat. Can't go wrong with it. But I would definitely look at Sentinel as being probably my go-to choice for these. Max your dexterity, then probably grab that. And like I said, mobile and the other ones, all are great. Just kind of pick the ones that sort of fit the way you're enjoying playing or what you think you want to do with the character. I just want to throw out all those options because I think they're all pretty decent. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about racial choices. I don't think it really matters that much. If you want to, you know, if you want to be a martial artist from like movies and whatnot, Variant Human is an amazing choice. Variant Human is always especially good on multi-classes because due to the fact that you're multi-classing, it's going to slow down your progression on either class, which means that feats and stuff are going to be a little slow coming in. So starting with a bonus feat just helps make up for that. It helps you to fill that role that you're looking for even quicker, and it's just an amazing ability. If you wanted to go with something like, say, Wood Elf, which has bonus movement on top of the monk movement, then that's an excellent choice. You have Dex, you have Wisdom, solid choice for a monk. Drow Elf is a solid choice as well. You're going to have a couple of Dex, you're going to have 1 Charisma, which is going to be nice with your adding Charisma bonus to your initiative as well. You're going to have the Dark Side, of course, and you'll have a couple of innate spells you can use. Well, nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I wouldn't choose Drow Elf. I'm going to be doing a lot of, you know, daytime hijinks in the bright sunlight, but your campaign might not have that, in which case Drow Elf becomes very good. I also kind of like some of the halflings, like Ghostwise Halfling especially, but really any of the halflings are pretty solid. You do have a movement penalty instead of a movement bonus, so you do have that working against you, but monks have so much movement in general that it's probably not so bad. And you do have some nice potential to like sneak and hide behind other things. You could hide behind the pack mule and, you know, attack with a ranged weapon and stuff. I think it's probably stronger on the ninja build we're going to look at in the next couple of days, but it's definitely still worth mentioning here. So really just play the race you like. I always end up saying this, but I still want to talk about some that are pretty good. If you're using some of the other guidebooks as well, like Kenku is a very strong choice. Tabaxi's pretty strong as well. You know, anything along those lines. If you have decent decks, though, you can't go wrong, right? So, you know, choose what you think is going to be fun and cool and thematic, and one that excites your ideas for roleplay. And that was the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video. I think a character like this can be a lot of fun to roleplay because a lot of times with monks, you think of that like austere scholar who wants to, you know, dedicate themselves to their art form or whatever. And when you think of rogue, you don't really think of that. So, but when you combine them, you can have like that kind of jaded mercenary sword for hire type, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards. Think of like Han Solo with a sword, you know? You might have that heart of gold deep inside, but you're still willing to shoot first and, you know, take somebody out if they're causing you problems. You're willing to have that kind of a little more mercenary attitude because, you know, you're a rogue and you're a monk. So you still have the skill and the dedication, but maybe, you know, maybe you were betrayed by your master, or maybe somebody killed your master and you abandoned your principles in search of revenge, or something along those lines. There are a million martial art tropes and anime tropes that you can draw from for inspiration, and I think that these kind of characters really lend themselves well to some of those more like role play intensive and thematic storytelling type things that you can do with a character, and you're still going to be awesome in combat. So it's a very solid choice. Those are my thoughts on this. Like I said, in the next couple days, I'm hoping to have the ninja video up and ready, and you know, hopefully you can like that one too. But anyways, I want to hear your comments and read your comments. Not really hear your comments, read your comments. I could read them out loud, then I'll also hear them. There we go. And you know, that's the thing I most look forward to. I love seeing other people's input and seeing how, hey, I did something very similar, but I used this subclass instead, or I took this level breakdown instead. And it just really goes to show there's really no like perfect way to do it. There's just a lot of really strong choices. And I just want to encourage people to like have fun with some of this stuff. I think that sometimes multi-classing can be a little intimidating. We're worried that we're going to screw it up somehow. And yeah, you know, it's easier to go wrong than it is if you just play one class from 1 to 20 straight through and just do what the book tells you. But there's also so many opportunities to be creative and to be fun. And the thing I love about multi-classing is that you're kind of inventing your own class almost as you go. You're just taking things from this and this, or maybe a third class or whatever, right? And you know, you get to build your own instead of just doing what the book says. And to me, that's kind of an exciting thing. And I think that's probably one reason, like my multi-classing videos are by far my most popular videos so far. Like my, the Paladin Sorcerer builds video has like double the views of any of my other videos. And then all the ones below it are like, you know, other multi-class builds, or like the War Cleric one's done extremely well too. And sort of my Dungeon Crawl Classics review, which I'm planning on getting back to. If you subscribe to me because I did a Dungeon Crawl Classics review and you're upset that I haven't covered it ever since, don't worry, that will be coming up. The White Spire campaign's over, we're looking to run something else. My next thing I'm running is Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I'll be talking about it a lot more. But anyways, that's my thoughts on this video. Like I said, subscribe, like, ring the bell, mostly leave comments. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.